Prince Harry has spent the last several years pulling back the curtain on royal life in a way no senior royal ever had before. Through interviews, documentaries, and most powerfully through his memoir, Spare, he has offered context that was missing for decades. What often gets lost in the noise is that Harry was not simply airing grievances. He was explaining a system, a culture, a set of incentives that shaped behaviour behind palace walls and quietly pitted family members against each other. One of the most revealing examples he shared was something many people outside royal circles had barely noticed before: the court circular. On the surface, it sounds harmless, even quaint. A daily list of official engagements carried out by working members of the royal family. But as Harry explained, what looks like a neutral record became something far more corrosive over time. According to Harry, the court circular evolved into an annual scoreboard. Every engagement counted, every appearance was tallied, and when the year ended, the totals were compared. Not openly at family dinners, not discussed in meetings, but everyone knew, everyone felt it, and the press certainly weaponized it. Harry described it as a sinister document, not because of what it was meant to be, but because of what it became. A tool that amplified rivalry, a mechanism that rewarded quantity over quality, a system that reduced public service to numbers and rankings, stripping away humanity, intention, and emotional labour. He wrote about how, at the end of each year, headlines would appear. This royal is busier than that one. This one works hard. That one is lazy. And once those narratives took hold, they were almost impossible to shake. The press did not ask whether an engagement was meaningful. They did not ask who it helped or what impact it had. They only counted how many times someone was photographed cutting a ribbon or stepping out of a car. What Harry exposed is something many workplaces struggle with, but few admit. When performance is measured only by visible output, the system encourages shallow activity over deep work. In the royal context, that meant that quiet visits, emotional support, and behind-the-scenes advocacy often counted for nothing. Harry gave a striking example. Multiple private visits with veterans, supporting their mental health, sitting with them, listening to their trauma. 0 points. Meanwhile, a quick helicopter trip to unveil a plaque somewhere could be counted as a win. The absurdity of that contrast speaks volumes. This matters deeply when we talk about Harry and Meghan. From the beginning, they approached royal work differently. They focused on substance, on connection, on impact. Meghan, in particular, gravitated toward causes involving women, mental health, racial equality, and community empowerment. Many of those efforts were not flashy. They did not always lend themselves to easy photo opportunities. Yet, within the court circular framework, that approach was quietly penalized. The system rewarded those who could stack engagements rapidly, even if each one was fleeting. It did not reward depth. It did not reward innovation. It did not reward emotional labour. Harry also revealed something else that is crucial to understand. The numbers in the court circular were self-reported, subjective. There was no independent verification. No consistent standard applied across the family, which meant that some royals were far more aggressive about what they counted than others. Harry made it clear that he and his brother would never dream of counting brief public interactions as full engagements. Others had no such hesitation. Over time, this created wildly uneven tallies that fed misleading narratives in the media. And once those narratives took hold, they shaped public perception. A royal who played the numbers game appeared tireless and devoted. A royal who focused on fewer, more meaningful engagements appeared less active, even if their work had deeper impact. This is where Meghan was particularly vulnerable. As a biracial American woman entering one of the most tradition-bound institutions in the world, she was already under extraordinary scrutiny. Add to that a system that reduced her work to a numbers comparison she never signed up for, and the pressure becomes almost unimaginable. When tabloids accused Meghan of not working hard enough, they rarely mentioned the hours she spent preparing speeches, meeting privately with charities, or supporting causes behind closed doors. None of that boosted a tally. None of that helped her ranking. Harry's frustration was not rooted in jealousy. It was rooted in injustice. He saw how the system incentivized performative busyness and punished authenticity. He saw how it fueled resentment within the family while giving the press an easy weapon. Importantly, Harry also acknowledged that the court circular did not create competition within the family. That existed already. What it did was amplify it. It gave that competition structure. It gave it metrics. And it gave the media a framework to exploit. This context makes recent headlines especially revealing. In 2025, King Charles emerged as the royal with the highest number of official engagements. Many outlets framed this as proof of dedication and work ethic. And to be fair, Charles has carried out a significant number of duties. But when viewed through the lens Harry provided, the question changes. Not who did the most, but what kind of work was done, how was it counted, and what did those engagements actually achieve? Princess Anne is often labelled the hardest working royal because she typically tops the engagement count year after year. Yet even that label is built on the same flawed metric. It assumes that more appearances automatically equal more service. Harry's insight challenges that assumption. It invites us to think critically about how institutions measure value. It asks us to consider whether systems designed decades ago still make sense in a modern world. For Harry and Meghan, stepping away from royal duties was not about avoiding work. It was about reclaiming control over how their work was defined and valued. Outside the royal system, they have built initiatives that prioritize impact over optics. Through Archewell, they have supported mental health programs, community relief efforts, and media literacy projects. Meghan has continued advocacy around women's empowerment and storytelling. Harry has expanded his work with veterans and mental health awareness on a global scale. None of this requires a court circular. None of it needs an annual tally. And yet, the impact is real and measurable in ways that matter far more than a headline ranking. What Harry revealed in Spare was not just a personal frustration. It was a systemic critique, one that resonates far beyond royal life. Many people recognize this dynamic in their own careers. The pressure to look busy rather than be effective. The competition driven by metrics that fail to capture real contribution. By speaking out, Harry did something rare within the royal family. He named the problem. He gave language to something that had been quietly shaping behavior for generations. And he did so knowing it would make him unpopular with those invested in maintaining the status quo. Critics often accuse Harry of bitterness, but when you read his words carefully, what comes through most strongly is clarity. He understood the game. He understood how it distorted priorities. And he chose to step away rather than continue playing by rules he believed were harmful. Meghan supported that choice because she lived the consequences of the system firsthand. She saw how genuine effort could be erased by misleading narratives. She experienced how a lack of visible tally points could be twisted into accusations of laziness or entitlement. Together, Harry and Meghan rejected the idea that service should be competitive. They rejected the notion that compassion needs a scorecard. And in doing so, they forced a broader conversation about what meaningful work actually looks like. The irony is that by leaving, they have arguably expanded their reach. Free from the constraints of the court circular, they can focus on long-term projects that create sustained change. They can collaborate globally. They can speak openly about issues the royal system avoids. Harry's revelations about the court circular help explain why that freedom mattered so much. It was not about ego. It was about integrity. As more people revisit Spare with time and distance, these details stand out. Not as gossip, but as insight. Insight into how institutions maintain control, how competition is quietly encouraged, and how those who refuse to play along are often punished. In the end, the court circular remains. The tallies will continue. Headlines will still declare winners and losers. But thanks to Harry, we now understand that those numbers tell only a fraction of the story. The real work often happens off the record, in private conversations, in sustained commitment, in choosing depth over display. That is the legacy Harry and Meghan are building. One that does not need a daily listing or an annual total to prove its worth. One defined not by comparison, but by purpose. And that may be the most radical departure of all.